At 5:17 local time, everything on the radar display changes in an instant. There is no slow buildup, no uncertainty, no warning that can be brushed aside. One moment, the screen is steady. The next, 3 new surface skimming contacts appear almost at the same time. They are low, fast, and closing in from the north. Inside the Combat Information Center of the lead Aegis destroyer guarding the U.S. carrier strike group, the room goes silent for half a second. Then it erupts into action. New contacts, bearing 027, high speed, low altitude. The tactical action officer leans closer to the display. The tracks are too precise, too quick, too intentional. These are not civilian aircraft. They are not random radar echoes. They are moving on clean, stable paths just above the surface of the sea, coming in low beneath the radar horizon in the exact way anti-ship systems are designed to approach. On the bridge, the officer of the deck hears the report through his headset and turns toward the captain. There is no shouting, no confusion, no wasted movement, just a single command. Set general quarters. The alarm cuts through the ship with a sharp metallic urgency. Across the entire carrier strike group, sailors instantly shift into motion. Boots hammer against ladders, hatches close, headsets are pulled on, consoles glow to life. On the carrier's flight deck, yellow shirts stop mid-signal and look toward the island. A tow tractor comes to a halt. Deck crews turn toward the escort ships positioned along the outer screen. No one needs a full explanation. Something has changed and everyone feels it before the word is spoken. Incoming. Back in CIC, the tracks continue to sharpen. A 4th contact appears briefly, fades, then locks into place. The Air Defense Coordinator watches the pattern develop in real time. These objects are not moving randomly. They are converging on the center of the formation, straight toward the carrier. Assess hostile, the captain says. No one challenges the call. The destroyer's spy radar updates again, refining the picture. The distance is closing quickly. Sea skimming profile confirmed. The inbound systems are staying extremely low, using the curve of the Earth and the clutter of the ocean surface to reduce reaction time. That is what makes this kind of threat so serious. It is not only the speed, it is the precision. The cruiser off the carrier's port quarter reports the same contacts. Seconds later, another destroyer on the starboard side confirms them as well. Now the entire formation sees the same picture. The tactical network connects every sensor, every update, every track into one shared reality. This is a coordinated anti-ship strike. The carrier does not turn away in panic. It begins to adjust with purpose. At first, the rudder movements are subtle, almost invisible from a distance. But within the formation, every ship understands the shift. The strike group is tightening its defensive posture. Angles are changing. Sectors are being assigned. The outer screen is fully awake. Inside CIC, the weapons officer calls out the timeline. Outer engagement window, less than 1 minute. At sea, that is almost no time at all. Electronic warfare teams begin searching for seeker activity. Signal operators listen for any emissions coming from the inbound systems. The ship's combat system sorts through solutions faster than people can speak them. One console tracks vectors, another calculates intercept windows, another clears the air picture to make sure friendly aircraft are not confused with the threat. Above them, the steel deck trembles as the destroyer increases power. On the bridge, the captain stands centered between the forward windows. He is not watching the horizon. He is watching the repeater screens, showing the same critical picture unfolding below. The carrier remains in position, huge and steady, surrounded by escorts built for exactly this kind of moment. But even inside a carrier strike group, no one treats an incoming anti-ship threat casually. There are too many variables, too little time, and too much depending on the next few seconds. On the carrier, flight deck control orders handlers to clear key lanes. Ordnance teams pause beside armed aircraft. The catapults are not launching yet, but preparations are already underway. Because if the strike group gets through this first wave, the aircraft will need to be in the air immediately. Everyone understands without needing an explanation. Then the first destroyer in the defensive screen sends the call the entire formation has been expecting. Multiple inbound vampires. Repeat, multiple inbound vampires. Navy slang. Brief, controlled, emotionless. There is no drama in the wording because there is no time for drama. One of the inbound tracks shifts slightly, changing its line. It is not drifting, it is correcting. A guided weapon refining its approach. Track 3 now prioritizing center formation. That means the carrier is still the most likely target. For a few seconds, the entire fight exists in the narrow space between detection and response. The inbound threats are still out there, unseen from the bridge windows, racing just above the surface of the water. The strike group has detected them, classified them, and accepted what they are. But seeing them is not the same as stopping them. The cruiser reports ready in its sector. The starboard destroyer reports ready. The lead ship's vertical launch system is armed and waiting. no one relaxes. Not yet. Because the contacts keep closing. And now, there are 5. The captain gives the next order quietly, just loud enough for the bridge team to hear. Engage on doctrine. Below deck, hands move instantly across consoles. Permissions are confirmed. Intercept sequences open. Across the strike group, launch cells are only seconds from action. Iran has made the first move, and in less than a minute, the U.S. Navy is about to respond. The answer begins below deck. At 5:18 local time across the U.S. carrier strike group, the first engagement chains go live. Inside the Combat Information Center of the lead destroyer, the Air Defense Commander watches 5 inbound tracks pressed toward the formation like a tightening trap. Range continues to fall. Altitude remains low. Their profiles are steady, deliberate, and clearly designed for an anti-ship approach. Outer layer has priority, he says. No one repeats the order. They already understand. Across the tactical network, the escort ships divide the threat picture without hesitation. The cruiser on the port side takes the 2 far left tracks. The starboard destroyer takes the contact crossing low and fast near the edge of the formation. The lead ship keeps the centerline threats, the ones most likely aimed at the carrier. This is what a carrier strike group is designed to do. Not act as separate ships, but move and fight as one connected system. On the lead destroyer, the launch officer receives final authorization. Engage! Above him, sealed behind armored steel, the vertical launch cells unlock. A split second later, the deck comes alive. Canister covers open in sequence, and the first interceptors surge into the dawn, climbing hard before turning outward toward the incoming tracks. The entire ship feels it, a sharp, controlled force passing through the hull. Not chaos, precision. On the bridge, the captain does not react. His eyes stay on the repeater screen as friendly symbols arc away from the formation. Time to intercept, 23 seconds. That is the pace of the battle now. Seconds. Nothing else matters. To port, the cruiser fires next. Its vertical launch deck flashes in staggered bursts, sending more interceptors into the air. They climb, roll, and drive back down toward the low-flying threats, guided by radar and combat systems built for exactly this kind of moment. Out on the water, the carrier begins a wider turn, just enough to improve wind across the deck and make the enemy's final targeting picture harder to solve. It is not retreating, it is shaping the fight. Inside the carrier's island, air operations is already focused on the next problem. Flight deck crews are ordered to clear the launch lanes. 2 Super Hornets are brought forward, their pilots already climbing the ladders and settling into the cockpits while the engagement continues beyond the outer screen. The logic is simple and unforgiving. If this is only the first salvo, there may be another. And if another one comes, the strike group will need eyes, speed, and reach beyond the horizon as quickly as possible. Back in CIC, the first intercept registers. One of the outermost inbound tracks disappears in a sudden burst on the display. The radar return breaks apart, scatters into fragments, and fades into the clutter. Splash 1. No one celebrates. Another contact is still coming in behind it, lower than expected. Then the second intercept connects. The cruiser's assigned target vanishes almost immediately. A clean defensive hit. Splash 2. A third interceptor closes on the inbound track from the starboard side. For a moment, the symbols merge on the screen. The operators wait for the contact to disappear. It does not. The inbound return shakes, loses speed for a brief second, then stabilizes and continues forward. Track survived. Possible deflection. No confirmed intercept. The atmosphere in the room changes. On the bridge, the captain hears the update and turns slightly toward the tactical display. One inbound weapon has been disrupted enough to shift its course, but not enough to stop it. It is still active, still moving, still headed toward the inner screen. Shift inward, he says immediately. The formation adapts. The starboard destroyer reassigns the surviving track. The lead ship takes over terminal responsibility. Then one of the centerline contacts dips even lower. Its altitude is so close to the surface that the radar return flickers in and out of the sea clutter. The Air Defense Commander studies it closely. That one is aimed at the carrier. He does not need absolute confirmation. The vector tells him enough. Electronic warfare teams begin seeing more details now. Brief emissions, seeker behavior, small pieces of the attack pattern coming into focus. These were not random launches. The inbound weapons are sorting, correcting, and refining their approach. Whoever planned this wanted saturation. They wanted the outer defenses crowded just enough for 1 or 2 threats to slip through. But a U.S. carrier strike group is built around layers. The second defensive engagement is authorized without delay. Another destroyer fires. This time the launches come tighter and faster, almost back to back. Interceptors tear into the sky and vanish from sight. From this point on, their work happens beyond the horizon, visible only through the radar picture. On the carrier's flight deck, steam begins venting from the catapult systems. Yellow shirts move quickly, arms low and controlled. The first two Hornets are now crewed. Power on, canopies down. They are not launching yet, not while the immediate threat remains active. But every second saved now could matter soon. The strike group understands something else as well. Attacks like this rarely happen in isolation. If there is a launch corridor, there is also a source. Mobile platforms, coastal batteries, aircraft, small combat craft. Identifying the source can wait. Getting through the next seconds cannot. The next intercept lands hard. One of the centerline tracks breaks apart well outside the carrier's bow. On the display, its symbol disappears cleanly. Splash 3, then another. Splash 4. For the first time since 517, the tactical picture begins to open up. But not enough. One track is still there. Low, fast, possibly damaged, but still disciplined. It slips through the thinning outer layer and drives straight toward the strike group's inner defense ring. Not gone, not lost, still committed. Inside CIC, there is almost no conversation now. The crew has moved beyond assessment. This is execution. The final inbound track is no longer just the cruiser's responsibility or the outer destroyer's responsibility. It belongs to the entire formation. The officer at the console watches the symbol and says the line every sailor in the room understands immediately. The outer layer got some of them. He pauses, eyes locked on the last track. Not all. The final inbound weapon comes in beneath the weather line. At 5:19 local time, after 4 successful outer layer intercepts, the last inbound track drops even lower and disappears for nearly 2 seconds inside the sea clutter. Inside the combat information center of the lead destroyer, that is worse than watching it clearly. A contact you can track is dangerous. A contact that keeps vanishing along the horizon is a countdown. Track holding speed, bearing steady, still inbound. The air defense commander does not take his eyes off the screen. Inner layer, take it now. On the lead destroyer's bridge, the captain grips the chart table with one hand, his eyes locked on the repeater display. The carrier remains behind them, enormous and deliberate, turning just enough to make the inbound weapon's final approach harder to solve. The escorts tighten the shield. This is no longer long-range defense. This is close protection. Then the damaged missile makes a move that pulls everyone's attention back to the screen. It shifts right, then corrects left. Not erratically, not like something out of control. It adjusts with purpose. It is still searching for the center of the formation, still trying to push through the defensive screen and find the largest target on the water. The guidance system is still active. On the starboard side of the screen, another destroyer turns a few degrees to open a cleaner intercept lane. There is no hesitation, no discussion. In a carrier strike group, the escorts are built for this exact responsibility. When a threat gets close, they move into the geometry first. They take the angle. They take the risk. They protect the carrier. Inside CIC, the final inner layer engagement sequence is already in motion. Another interceptor leaves the launcher with less drama than the first salvo, but with the same force. The deck shudders. Operators watch the symbols close on one another. Time to intercept, 8 seconds. The numbers fall. 5, 4, 3, the symbols merge. For one brief moment, the room seems to stop breathing. Then the hostile track breaks apart, but not cleanly. Partial debris field continuing. That is the worst kind of almost success. The interceptor has damaged the incoming weapon, possibly broken its structure, possibly disrupted its guidance, but pieces are still moving forward at extreme speed. At sea, even a damaged anti-ship missile can remain dangerous if enough of it stays on course for long enough. Above deck, lookouts on the destroyer's starboard side finally see it. Not the full missile anymore, just a broken, burning streak of metal tearing low across the morning light. Then the close-in weapon system comes alive. The sound is not dramatic, it is hard, mechanical, and relentless. A controlled stream of fire reaches toward a point on the horizon that is barely visible to the human eye. Tracers stretch out over the water in a bright white line as the mount tracks, adjusts, and keeps firing. On the carrier's flight deck, crew members instinctively drop lower, even though the threat is still beyond the escort screen. Yellow shirts crouch behind equipment. A pilot in the middle of startup turns his helmet toward the port bow, looking through the canopy for something he cannot yet see. The final debris mass vanishes into spray. A heartbeat later, a wall of water rises beside the lead destroyer's starboard side. The force reaches the ship as a deep metallic impact through the hull. Not a direct hit, a near miss. Close enough to shake the ship, slam pressure against the hull, and throw spray across the weather decks. On the bridge, the windows tremble. Several sailors glance upward by instinct, even though there is nothing above them but steel. Near miss off starboard, no penetration, assessing. The captain does not ask if they were fortunate. Everyone already knows. Across the formation, reports begin to come in. No major damage, no fire aboard the carrier, propulsion intact. One escort has taken spray and possible light fragmentation along exposed deck fittings, but the defensive screen remains in place. The strike group is still moving, still together, still in the fight. And now the situation begins to change. Because surviving the first strike buys time, and time brings clarity. On the carrier, the first pair of Super Hornets is cleared to launch. The catapults fire one after another, sending both aircraft into the sky within seconds. Their mission is not symbolic. It is urgent. Expand the battle space. Push the radar horizon outward. Find where the attack came from before another salvo appears. At the same time, electronic warfare teams aboard the escorts begin reviewing everything the engagement revealed. Seeker behavior, track geometry, timing between launches, direction of approach. The network starts turning fragments of information into an answer. One operator leans closer to his console, studying the inbound path history with fresh data layered over it. He checks it once, then again. Possible launch corridor confirmed. That sentence shifts the room. Not emotionally, operationally. The strike group is no longer only reacting to threats already in motion, it is beginning to trace them back to their source. On the bridge, the captain hears the report and looks toward the carrier. It remains steady at the center of the formation, untouched by the salvo meant to reach it. His voice stays even. Mark it, refine it. I want origin. Back in CIC, the operators move immediately. One inbound track was stopped far out. Another was stopped closer in. The final one came dangerously close. But in trying to break the shield, the attack revealed something important. Its direction, its timing, its pattern, its opening. And in modern naval combat, that can be enough. The Air Defense Commander studies the updated tactical picture for one more second. Then he says the sentence that changes the entire battle. We have launch origin. At 5:21 local time, the fight is no longer only defensive. The final spray from the near miss is still falling back into the sea when the tactical picture across the U.S. carrier strike group becomes something more useful than relief. It becomes direction, pattern, origin. Inside the Combat Information Center of the lead destroyer, the engagement replay is already running. 5 inbound anti-ship weapons, shared vectors, tight launch timing, a common approach corridor. The combat system lays their paths over the digital chart in pale lines. And where those lines begin to come together, a narrow sector lights up along the Iranian coastline. Not a guess, not a theory, a firing lane. Launch corridor refined, the tactical action officer says, confidence high. That is the moment the initiative begins to shift. The carrier is still maneuvering inside the protective ring of escorts, but the formation is no longer simply preparing for the next impact. It is starting to reach back toward the source. The first 2 Super Hornets, launched only minutes earlier, are already climbing beyond the fleet's outer screen. They push the radar horizon farther out and feed new sensor data into the strike group's network. An E-2 Hawkeye is brought forward next. On the flight deck, the catapult crews move without hesitation. Steam builds. The aircraft transitions from lockdown to airborne in seconds. Now the strike group has eyes above the curve of the Earth. And that changes the entire picture. From the air, the battle space opens up. What looked like scattered fragments on shipboard radar begins to form into something larger. A heated coastal strip, several brief emissions, one search radar, one fire control pattern appearing for a moment, then going quiet. Possible mobile launch elements. Possible fast attack support craft farther offshore. Nothing is fully confirmed yet, but it is enough to stop treating the first salvo as a single isolated event. Because if 5 weapons were launched once, more could follow. On the bridge of the lead destroyer, the captain does not need many words. His order is short and exact. Suppress second shot capability. That is the mission now. Not spectacle, not emotion, not noise. Make sure another salvo cannot leave its launch point. Across the formation, every ship adjusts to that command. Escorts keep their sectors locked. Radars remain active. Vertical launch cells stay ready. Damage control teams complete rapid checks across exposed decks and report the details that matter most. No loss of mission capability, no loss of combat power, no break in the screen. The carrier remains fully operational. That single fact changes the meaning of the attack. The strike did not break the group. It triggered the phase its planners could least afford. On one of the destroyers, electronic warfare operators begin narrowing in on the coastal signals. The signatures are brief, controlled, and clearly trying to disappear into background clutter. But they remain visible long enough to classify as hostile targeting support. Emitter active, bearing stable. The operator freezes the line and pushes it into the shared network. One of the Hornets picks it up almost instantly. The pilot is already well ahead of the fleet now, flying low enough to complicate hostile radar while his aircraft absorbs targeting data from the ships behind him. He does not need to see the launcher with his own eyes. Modern naval combat almost never works by direct sight alone. A launch corridor, a matching emitter, and an active threat chain can be enough to turn uncertainty into something the strike group can act on. Farther back, the Hawkeye continues to widen the picture. More airspace, more ocean. More room for hidden threats to reveal themselves. Then another piece appears. A second emitter lights up deeper inland for only a few seconds before going silent. Too brief to be comfortable. Too deliberate to ignore. Possible relay or support radar, someone says inside CIC. The captain hears it and answers without delay. Treat every active emitter inside that corridor as part of the threat package. No one on the bridge misses the weight of that order. This is how a U.S. carrier strike group turns a dangerous opening move back on the source. Not through panic, not through speeches, through classification, geometry, and permission chains moving at combat speed. First, survive the salvo. Then, blind the system behind it. Then, hold the sea while the other side loses the ability to launch again. The first Hornet flight rolls toward the coast, still outside the most hazardous zone, but close enough now to force a response. And responses are exactly what the strike group needs. Radar crews under pressure reveal themselves. Mobile launchers trying to reposition begin creating patterns. Fast support craft moving for a possible second round, separate from the shoreline and become easier to follow. From this moment forward, every defensive move Iran makes risks exposing another part of its own network. Back aboard the carrier, a second pair of fighters is brought into launch position. This is no longer emergency survival, this is battle space control. On the lead destroyer's bridge, the tactical display begins to clear. Not because the danger has fully passed, but because its cover is being stripped away. One hostile emitter goes silent, another blinks, then disappears. A small surface contact breaks away from the coastal clutter and turns off its speed. It is tagged, tracked, and watched. Then comes the line that tells everyone across the formation that the shift is real. Hostile fire control emissions are collapsing. The captain looks out across the water toward the dim edge of dawn and the unseen coast beyond it. Only minutes earlier, 5 anti-ship weapons were racing toward his carrier. Now the launch corridor is being hunted and its support nodes are being forced dark one by one. Iran made the first move, but the screen is clearing now, and every hostile emitter is going quiet. By 5:28 local time, the sea is quiet again. Not peaceful, not normal. Quiet in the way a battlefield becomes quiet after both sides understand the first exchange is over and the second one is no longer certain. Across the U.S. carrier strike group, the formation holds steady. The carrier remains at the center, turning with controlled confidence. Its deck crews are already back at work beneath red and amber light. The escorts hold their spacing, radars remain active, launch cells stay ready. Nothing in the formation looks relaxed. Everything about it says prepared. On the bridge of the lead destroyer, no one speaks louder than they need to. The captain studies the surface picture, then the air picture, then the damage reports arriving from across the group. The near miss off the starboard side left evidence behind. Salt spray across exposed fittings. Fragmentation marks on topside equipment. A hard shock through the hull, a few systems that will need inspection as soon as conditions allow. But there is no flooding, no onboard blaze, no loss of propulsion, no reduction in combat capability. The ship absorbed the shock and remained in the fight. And the same is true across the formation. Inside CIC, the operators who spent the last 10 minutes watching inbound threats now move into the quieter work that comes after survival. Engagement logs are reviewed, timelines are checked. The behavior of each inbound weapon is replayed frame by frame. One officer compares the launch corridor against the hostile emitters that have now disappeared from the tactical picture. Another confirms the status everyone hoped for, but no one assumed. No new launches, no active fire control returns. The Air Defense Commander gives a single nod. He does not smile. He does not need to. The meaning is already clear. The strike group is still here. The threat chain above the water has been broken. The first Hornets continue their orbit beyond the outer screen, working with the Hawkeye to keep the battle space open. They are not there for show. They are there to make sure the corridor stays quiet. Below them, the escorts keep searching every stretch of sea that could hide a fast-moving craft, every section of coastline that could cover a mobile launcher, every faint electronic signal that might point to one more attempt. Nothing significant appears. Whatever Iran intended the first salvo to accomplish, it was not enough. It did not slow the carrier, it did not split the escorts, it did not force the strike group to turn away. On the carrier's flight deck, that reality becomes visible in motion. Aircraft are repositioned, launch and recovery lanes are reset. Deck crews return to their precise rhythm, not because the danger has vanished, but because the mission has not stopped. That is how a carrier strike group answers an anti-ship attack when it survives intact. It keeps operating. To an outside observer, that might look routine. To anyone who understands naval warfare, it is the strongest message the formation can send. You tried to stop us. We are still here. On the lead destroyer, sailors step out to inspect the starboard weather deck, where the blast spray hit hardest. They move carefully across wet steel, past scorched paint, bent fragments, and fittings marked by the force of the near miss. The air still carries the sharp mix of salt, heat, and spent propellant. A petty officer kneels beside a gouged section of metal, runs a gloved hand across it for a brief second, then returns to the inspection. There will be photos, there will be reports, there will be parts to replace. But none of that matters as much as the one fact every sailor already understands. The missile did not get through. Inside the carrier's island, air operations continue with the same clipped professionalism heard during the most intense moments of the attack. No speeches, no celebration, no emotional release, only checklists, call signs, fuel states, deck windows, system status. The engagement is already becoming a record, a lesson, and a future procedure. That is how the U.S. Navy handles moments like this. Not with noise, not with chest thumping, with performance. Back in CIC, the final engagement summary is passed quietly up the chain. 5 anti-ship weapons launched, 4 stopped in the outer layer. 1 damaged, then broken apart in the inner layer, with remaining debris causing only a near miss. No ship lost, no aircraft lost, no break in formation integrity. Hostile launch corridor identified. Supporting emissions forced offline. Follow-up launch capability suppressed. In plain terms, the strike group absorbed the attack and ended the sequence on its own terms. The captain listens to the summary without interrupting. Then he looks once more toward the carrier, still centered in the formation, massive and steady against the morning sea. He gives the simplest order of the day. Maintain course. That is the final reversal. Iran launched anti-ship missiles at a U.S. carrier strike group, expecting shock, damage, or hesitation. Instead, the formation locked in, fought through the salvo, traced the launch corridor, and shut down the follow-on threat before another wave could rise. The carrier never lost its ability to operate. The escorts never left the screen. The sky above the formation never belonged to the attacker for more than a few dangerous minutes. And that is what happened. Iran launched the salvo. The U.S. Navy ended the battle.